Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you from the Visionetics Institute. Look, I know that it is a little bit later in the day than we normally do this, but I still wanted to drop in on you and share something with you, hopefully that will provide you with some necessary insight on dealing with some things you may be struggling with in the area of anxiety, worry, and stress, which are very devastating to not only mental health, but physical health as well. Um, I'll give you a slight advance notice. I have, and I think I told you guys this yesterday. I have launched a master class, a personal placement master class, dealing with developing the ability to immediately confront and conquer worry, anxiety, and stress, and how it's done. It's a mental process that when you practice it consistently will provide the right mental state on a consistent basis. Hello, everyone, on a consistent basis in order to confront stress. I'm going to get right into it. The link, if you when it's all said and done, the link, if you want to enroll in the course right now, it's an inaugural enrollment fee compared to what it will be in the coming weeks as it becomes a part of my normal service program. But anyway, let's talk. What most people don't realize is you wake up every day and you have an option when you wake up. You can wake up facing and looking at all of the problems you have in your life. You can look at everything that's due. If you're a person that's struggling in your finance, look at all the bills that are due and wake up with that stress on your mind, and wake up and start your day in a position of stress, worry, and anxiety based on your current situation and your condition. The other choice is you can wake up with a mindset of, I'm going to live life today. It doesn't mean that I'm ignoring what's going on in my circumstances. It's that I am making a choice that I am going to live life from a place of gratitude, appreciation, and expectation. In other words, what I see in front of me is not the end of my story. I am going to live life based off of what I anticipate my life will produce for me over time. That takes the bite and the size out of any challenge you face when you look at your life in totality, not just what you've been through, but what you will accomplish and what you will see. You're never going to see anyone who has learned to circumvent the vicissitudes and struggles and challenges and disappointments and delays that are a natural part of life. I don't care how successful they've been. I don't care what they've been able to accomplish. They have experienced what you're experiencing in some form, some shape, at some point. It's the way that they view it. It's the commitment they have to a higher standard. It is the determination and perseverance to achieve what they set out to achieve that sets them apart. What sets a person apart is not getting around challenges, getting around struggles, getting around setbacks. It's not the ability to avoid all of the things that everybody else endures. It's simply that they have made up in their mind that they're willing to go the distance. That's what sets people apart. So you wake up in the morning and you have a choice. Is my day going to be dominated by my problems, or am I going to wake up and have my day be dominated by my focus, my intent, and my expectations that are a reflection of my belief system and my faith? You've got to wake up and you've got to ask yourself, what limiting beliefs are shutting me down? What limiting beliefs are shutting me down, and what can I do about it? Then you have to ask yourself a secondary questions. These are called interrogative questions. You're trying to dig in and discover. You want to be honest with yourself, so you're going to ask yourself some probing questions. After you ask yourself, what's your limiting beliefs? What are the limiting beliefs that are inhibiting you from being everything that you can be? The second thing you got to ask yourself is, what have my limiting beliefs cost me in the past? What have I not been able to do because of my limiting beliefs? Then you've got to ask yourself a third question. What will I lose in the future if I don't get rid of these limiting beliefs? And all of this ties into dealing with worry, anxiety, and stress. Let me explain to you what anxiety is, because anxiety is this devastating force. Worry is the genesis of anxiety. It is the origin of anxiety. And worry, what anxiety is worry being manifested at a level in which it is going and spiraling out of control to the point that it's now being felt physically in the body. If you've ever had an anxiety attack or a panic attack, you know what it feels like. It's completely out of control. You're trying to settle down, but you can't. And it seems that the more you try to settle down and the more you think about it, the more anxious you become and the larger the panic attack. That's a mental process that has now become so intense that it's manifesting itself in the body. It is, in essence, a slow version of PTSD. PTSD normally comes from a momentary and emphatic event in your life. It's a traumatic event, and it produces trauma, and it happens. Then you have some people who have experienced complex trauma, which is multiple traumatic events in succession. But when you talk about anxiety, it's the slow process of traumatizing yourself to the point that your body keeps the score. So your body is always keeping the score. People don't realize it, but your body is what remembers the trauma before your brain does. Your body is actually what triggers the mental processes as a part of traumatic memory. The body has its own brain in every cell. And if you don't learn how to put your brain back in control, your body will dominate your day. You have sit up, a lot of you have sit up because you're struggling with anxiety. You have sit up and been in a situation and ended up in a panic attack and don't have a clue why. Your body sensed something that reminded it of something that you are afraid of. It sensed a threat, whether it was real or imagined. The body sensed it first. And the body is made to do that. The body communicates to the most ancient part of the brain, what we call the reptilian brain. And what it does, and the reptilian brain had one primary function: to keep you alive. So its primary focus was to find things that were wrong, that were threats, and to alert you to it so you can defend yourself or so you can run. Now, at the time that this brain was the predominant force in the lives of humanity, humans were running from these unbelievably huge creatures that could kill them on a regular basis. They were coexisting. And that is exactly what you have to be afraid of when you are sitting up now, is that your reptilian brain will be the leader. But now we have, the brain has become extremely complex. You have the prefrontal cortex, and in the prefrontal cortex, you have the ability to make executive decisions. It have impulse control, things that allow you to think. You are in control. It determines. But when you are in a state of fear, it becomes secondary and begins to shut down. Well, how you're going to manage your anxiety is through the process of being determinate in and deliberate in your thought processes. You've heard me say this before, that 95% of our behavior over the course of a day is dictated by the subconscious. Well, 46.9% of our total behavior and thought processes are totally on a default system. In other words, it's just automatically kicking in. It's just determining what you're going to do. And if you are a habitual worrier, the vast majority of your day is spent looking for things to worry about. Why? Because the reticular activating system, the bundle of nerves that literally filters out and prioritizes what happens around you. Because remember, the subconscious can process 4 billion bits of information per second, while the conscious mind can only process 2,000 bits per second. So if I bombard my conscious with that 4 billion bits of information when it only has a capacity for 2,000 bits, it's going to be overwhelmed, overloaded, and probably going to shut down. So what happens? The reticular activated system, based on your conscious designations and your perpetuation of frequency in dealing with things, prioritizes it for you. So it's the reason why you go out and you buy a new shirt and you blouse and you just loving it, and you've never seen it before and you're excited about it. Then you go out and you see it everywhere. It's not that all of a sudden after you bought yours, everybody bought one. It's always been there, but until you told your reticular activating system that it was important, it just simply bypassed it and didn't even put it in front of your consciousness. But once it became a part of who you are, now you see it. Same thing with a car, same thing with a bunch of stuff. And so, you know, it's the same thing with knowledge. When you learn something new, all of a sudden you start hearing it. It's been there. It was just not something that you had prioritized at a level that it was going to be perceived by your conscious. So the subconscious picks up everything. Things you don't even recognize are happening in your environment. The subconscious picks it up. That's why you got to be careful of what you expose yourself to. That's why you got to be careful of what you're around. And so that's huge and that's important. But okay, you've got this situation where you got 46% on default, meaning you're not even participating in it. It's just happening. And if that default is worry, then you're going to find things to worry about. You're going to look for things to worry about. You're going to find things to confirm your need to worry. But you've got to make a conscious effort to be deliberate about what you're thinking, so that now you're controlling what you're focusing on, what your subconscious is highlighting and looking for, and what your subconscious will perpetuate. You change the default so that even when you're not being deliberate, you're still producing the right thought processes. Now, the wonderful thing about this is when you start to do this, when you start to make up in your mind that I am going to interrupt my default system. And that's how it is. And that's why people come to me all the time and say, man, I've been doing positive thinking. I've been doing positive thinking. I've been talking, I've been saying all my affirmations, and it's just not working. It's not simply positive thinking or positive speech. What you got to understand is it's a thought. That's one of the reasons that the Bible talks so heavily, and many other books throughout history talk and focus so heavy on the mind. And when the Bible talks about the mind and the heart, said guard your hearts and minds, it's talking about the conscious and the subconscious. The nous in Greek is the conscious mind. The cardia in Greek is the heart or the center of the soul, the subconscious mind. And you would think that it would be the other way around, that the most powerful force would be what's conscious. No, the consciousness creates the will, but the will can only work for a certain amount of times. You've got to be able to function. There's so many things you do over the course of the day. First of all, you have over 70,000 thoughts that your brain processes every day, much of which you're not even aware of, but it's processed and necessary for the things that you do on a regular basis. From getting up and going to the restroom to everything else, it's processed 70,000 thoughts per day. And so you got all this going on. How do you control how you have to program the subconscious? You program the subconscious through the conscious. By what you engage, by what you declare, by what you give value to, you are telling the subconscious, this is important to me. So then it begins to consume and prioritize and engage. It will begin to go out and find the things that align with what it is you want. There's absolutely nothing you can't obtain if you set your mind to it and you train your subconscious to engage it and to look for it. You will be able to achieve it. It's not magic, so it doesn't happen overnight. It's not some universal hack so that you can make things happen quickly. It is a process, but it is a process of training. Most of us are living in the process that happened in the state of theta when we were growing up between birth and 7 years old, where your brain is almost constantly in a state of theta, which means it's absorbing and taking in information and establishing a standard of operation that it will carry out over the rest of your life. You have primary theta, which is absorption, and you have creative theta, which is imagination. And what will happen with most kids is that their parents will squeeze the imagination around 5, 6, they'll start squeezing. Why? Because you're going to school now. They want you to focus in classroom. They want you to center on what you're being taught, which is to squeeze yourself and fit into a standardized idea of what life is so that you can fit into the society, into the economy, and work for somebody and do what they want you to do, and with the least amount of problems. Now, so you're told, get your head out of the clouds. You're told, stop daydreaming. You're told, that's a pretty big goal. You probably ought to be focusing on this. You're good at that, but you're not good. And it's over and over again. And you got to understand, if you're a parent and you've got a young kid, you are their primary label giver. They are looking for you to help them identify who they are. And if your study telling them they're not smart in this, they're not good in this. The research shows that the average child by the age of 17 has been told, no, you can't do it 150 times, 150,000 times. Compared to 5,000, yes, you can. And so what do you think is in the mind of the average adult? They look for why they can't before they look for why they can. And if you're looking for why you can't, you will find it, because there are reasons why you can't, but there are also reasons why you can't. Why aren't you seeing the reasons why you can't? Because you're looking for why you can't. Why you can't deal with the financial situation, why you can't get a higher level of education, why you can't start your own business, why you can't work on your marriage, why you can't. Everything is looking for the threat instead of for the possibility. You have to interrupt that thinking and say that I'm going to take advantage of neuroplasticity, which is the ability to develop new neurons, new neural pathways that house new ideas, new beliefs, and build new memories that will support the new you, the new expectations, the new anticipation, the new demand on life. Life will pay you what you demand of it. Nothing more. Now, I didn't say life will pay you what you wish for. See, there's a difference in a demand and a wish. A demand says, this is what I'm expecting, and this is what I'm going to do. A wish says, it would be nice, and it stops. No, any demand you place on life, it will pay, but it comes at a price. This is how God designed the universe to work, and people call it faith. You can call it what you want to, but this is how he designed it to work. You go out and you sit up and say, I'm going to be a successful A, B, C, D, or E. I'm going to earn A, B, C, or D. I'm going to build A, B, C, D, or E, right? You go out and say it, and you place that demand on the universe. The universe says, I see your demand, I accept, and here's my counter offer. Now, I'll do this, but this is what you've got to do. And see, that's where most people balk. Most people balk on the counter demand. See, I want all of this, but I don't want to put in the work. I want all of this, but I don't want to have to be that committed to it. I don't want to give up nights out with the boys in order to have this beautiful marriage that I keep saying I want. I don't want to give up weekends hanging out with the fellas in order to put in extra hours in building my business. I don't want to put in the extra work of reading and studying and learning how to do the things I'm going to have to be an expert at in order to excel in my personal or my chosen industry. But see, the universe said, I got you, but this is the counter demand. You're going to have to meet it, and that's where you balk at. But see, when you truly understand, the universe is designed to respond to you. Life is not happening to you. There's no need to become frenetic and unglued, worried and stressed out. Life isn't happening to you. Life is the universe responding to who you are. I hear people tell me all the time, I'm a worrier. No, you're not. You are a person who is gifted, talented, and set up with all you need to be anything you desire. Worry is simply something that you are doing habitually that is interrupting the process of your growth. Worry is the precursor to stress, anxiety, and fear. You've got to stop focusing on the negative, and every time you feel yourself thinking something that you should not be thinking, it's not just about saying something positive, it's about interrupting that idea and replacing it with a new idea. You've got to see what you're thinking and speaking. I tell you all the time that your brain is a supercomputer, the most powerful computer on this planet. No computer can do what your brain can do. I just told you 4 billion bits of information per second. It's processing things you don't even realize. And it can be trained to do unbelievable things when we get ourselves out of feeding it empty things. When we start to challenge the brain is like the body. You challenge the body gets stronger. The brain does the same thing. If all you do is look at, read, see empty things that produce nothing, you are deadening your brain and reducing its functionality, and that's a problem. But when you sit up and say, I'm going to read 30 minutes a day, something that will grow me, in the area of maturity and wisdom, grow me in the area of knowledge of finance, grow me in the area of understanding how to deal with my mate, grow me in the area of understanding of how to rear my kids. I'm going to challenge myself to read a minimum of 30 minutes a day. That's going to be the guaranteed area of growth in my life. I'm going to engage people that I see doing better than me in areas I desire to do better in, because they are going to be the standard by which I set to live my life from that point on. I'm going to move out of the comfort area of living a life that I can understand and see, to go after something I may not yet understand, because that's where the power lies. I'm going to raise the demand. You've got to start demanding more of yourself. I'm telling you, if you haven't joined or enrolled in this class, I'm telling you, you're going to get the full dose of what I'm talking about, step by step. The thing is, most of us have, most of us understand when we talk about pandemics, that means widespread sicknesses and illnesses. We think of the body. You know, it's easy to see the pandemics. There's a constant flow of talk about cancer. Everybody has lost somebody to cancer, heart disease, diabetes. We've lost that. We can see obesity all around us, where people have eaten themselves into oblivion. So it's easy to think about the pandemic of the body, but what most people don't understand is the pandemic of the mind and of the brain, and that's leading to some of these situations that are manifesting themselves in the body. Mental illness. Look, I mean, it would seem that it would blow your mind to understand that the second leading cause next to accidental death from young men from the age of 10 to 40 is suicide. I said 10 to 40, the second leading cause, second only to accidental death, is suicide. Women, regardless of race, are more likely to be depressed. Why? Because women in their natural emotional center tend to worry more. Worry leads to biased cognitions, negative cognitions, distorted cognitions. I've been trained to worry. Why are you perceiving everything in a negative sense? Why do you expect bad things to happen? Either somebody in your life when you were young, a long time ago, conditioned and trained you to worry, or you've been through some rough things in your life and trained yourself to worry. You got to a point after a while that you started expecting bad things to happen, and you never got out of it. You've got to retrain yourself to interrupt that thinking and replace that negative thought with a positive idea and a new belief that you're going to develop. That's neuroplasticity. I can take an idea that's not working for me, a belief that's not working for me. I can replace it with a new idea of what's possible. I can entertain it on a regular basis. I can use this unbelievable gift God gave me to respond to things the same way He does. The imagination to visualize the outcome. When I visualize it, it solidifies the seed I've planted, and it gives me visual indication and confirmation of what's coming. People ask me all the time when I was going through those rough times in my life back in 2012. Dude, how are you sitting up here smiling? How are you going to homeless shelters and teaching and working with people in homeless shelters? How are you setting up feedings for homeless shelters? How are you going around doing the things you're doing when I know what you're going through? I said, that's just it. You don't get it. When you get it, life will change for you. The reason I'm able to do this is that I'm functioning in my current reality because I have to operate and I have to be able to do things. I'm functioning in my current situation, but I'm living in my future destiny. Every day I'm experiencing what it feels like to be ahead of where I am right now. See, when you are able to visualize at a strong level, when you can sit up and visualize to the point you can touch it, you can see it, you can smell it, you can taste it. You can live in it, and that emotional feeling that's associated with that reality starts to be in your reality now. I'm happy not because of what I'm going through, because of what I'm headed to. I'm trying to get you to understand there's no need to worry. Man, I'm so excited about this new course. I'm so excited because we are destroying ourselves. Let me explain something to you from a biological perspective. When you begin to worry, it's a precursor to stress. The body is now sensing a threat. Now, the threat could be real or it could be imagined, but the body is sensing something threatening. And it starts to move into what we call fight or flight. It's in a stress response mode. And when it does that, it releases cortisol, which is a stress hormone, adrenaline, which is a stress hormone, and the heart begins to beat faster. That's how you end up getting into an anxiety attack. The body starts to sense this and becomes overwhelmed by it, and it starts to spiral out of control over time, and now you've become anxious. But it started with worry. Now, here's what happens. Cortisol, especially, is designed for short-term engagement. Adrenaline is what gives you the extra strength and ability and strength and power and to get to boot scoot if you need to, or to stood up and knuck up if you need to, whatever one you want to do. You got to either fight and defend yourself or you got to get away from the danger. That's what it does. Here's the problem. First and foremost is when you put cortisol and adrenaline in stream, the heart starts to beat faster. The problem is it draws blood away from vital organs like your heart, your kidney, your liver, and your brain, especially the prefrontal cortex, and it takes it to your extremities so that now you can fight or run. The problem is, while that's happening, two things detrimental are also happening. You are now losing the ability to function in your prefrontal cortex, which is the executive function, the executive function of the brain, which is impulse control. That's why people are doing stupid stuff that don't make sense to you, because they have no impulse control, because they're living life in a constant state of worry. It's your rationalization part of the brain, the mechanisms that determine how you make choices and decisions. All of this stuff, you wonder how people, it's that I'm spending too much time in a state of worry and stress. But see what happens, the second thing that happens is, because of the lack of oxygen, if you stay in this state for long enough, which we call chronic stress, where you're consistently all day long, you just got that uneasy feeling. You're talking about ulcers, but it gets way worse than ulcers. You start to deal with organ failure. Cortisol is something you release in your body when you're hitting the gym. That's why I tell people all the time, you're working out, get as much as you can out of your workout. Never extend your workout past an hour. Really cut it off about 45 minutes. If you spend too much time, now you get guys who spend a lot of time in the gym, but they're not going straight. You know, they'll get up, do some stuff, then they'll go back, chill, sit, whatever. You got guys that sit up, have conversations, then they'll get back to it. But if you're going consistently, nonstop for 40 minutes, that's when cortisol starts to have the negative effect. See, you don't need to run from nothing that's trying to kill you for 40 minutes. So the body now is in a counterproductive mode. It's starting to reduce the effectiveness of the workout. You're spending time doing a lot of workout and getting minimal effects because you're not optimizing it. So what happens? You got to understand, if I'm leaving my body in stress for days and weeks at a time, I am literally destroying myself from the inside out. It's called psychosomatics. You've got to understand how you are working against you. There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like you. There's going to always be obstacles. There are going to be people who throw out roadblocks and so much more. There's an African proverb that says, if there's no enemy on the inside, the enemy on the outside can do us no harm. I believe that so much. Enemies are able to get through the orifice and cracks that we leave in our armor when we start to focus on things in a negative sense, when we start to have low expectations, when we start to be fearful. And the thing is, the beautiful thing about it is you start to develop confidence as you turn off that worry. Oh, and let me explain what confidence is in its simple sense, because it can be defined in such an esoteric manner that you really can't get a meaning. When I'm talking about confidence, when I'm working with my clients and I'm talking about confidence, it's simple. Confidence is the ability and the capacity to take something that you're thinking and you are engaging mentally and put action to it. Regardless of the obstacles, regardless of the obstruction, regardless of all of the things that are going to be interruptive in the process, I'm going to put action to it. And when you put action to an idea, it produces a result. There's absolutely nothing you can't do that someone else is doing. There's nothing you can't do if you can conceive it in your mind. I tell people all the time, look, if you can conceive it in your mind, that's God's evidence that it's possible. God wouldn't allow you to perceive something in your mind that you couldn't have. That would be torture. So if I can perceive it in my mind, that's the first level or bit of evidence I need, and the only evidence I need that it's possible. Now, it might require some hard work and some long-term commitment and a willingness to go the distance, but it's possible. Look, whether you enroll or not, you need to understand that it is your mind. That's why one of my favorite verses when I'm teaching people, when I'm teaching Bible classes, or I'm speaking and I use Bible references, one of my favorite is Corinthians 10:3-5. Look, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for the pulling down of strongholds. Mighty in God, talking about true divinity, the true nature of God, which you are a part of. And that's what people don't get. You're connected inside and out. You're not distant and separate from God. You are a part of God. And so you are connected. You can't have something, no matter what faith system you're from, but if you're a Christian, you're talking about God indwelling you. But how can that be possible and you're living a life of defeat? There's divine intelligence all about you. There's no answer to any problem that is not at your fingertips. When I end my morning meditation affirmation, I got my silent meditation, and then I move into a meditation where I am repeating affirmations. When I end it, the last paragraph says that I am certain that when any obstacle or undesirable circumstance crosses my path, I refuse to accept it, for it is nothing but an illusion. There can be no obstacle or undesirable circumstance to the mind of God, which is in me, around me, and serves me now. And that concept is throughout this particular affirmation. And this particular one I do every day. Why? Because when you remind yourself that there's no obstacle, and there's another part of it that simply says that every answer that I need for any situation, everything that I need in any situation is speeding its way to me. The answer to every problem is speeding its way to me. Answer to every problem. There can be no undesirable circumstances and obstacles to the mind of God. They don't apply to the mind of God. And the mind of God is in you, around you, and it's ready to serve you. You can call on it for your slightest need. And if you can call on it for your slightest need, what is there to be worried about? What is there to be stressed about? Paul tells you in Philippians, be anxious for nothing. But let's go back. It says that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty in God for the pulling down of strongholds, casting down arguments, ideas, beliefs, suppositions that exalts itself, every argument that exalts itself against the knowledge, there it is, this knowledge and intelligence and the answers in the mind of God, that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, the mind of God, casting down those arguments. And then what does it say? It says, bringing into captivity every thought. I am going to be the manager of my thoughts. I am going to be the guardian of the gate of my thinking. I am not going to allow any type of thought processes that come into my realm to enter into my gates and disrupt what I have set forth and declared in my life. This is not religion. This is simply a principle of understanding your design. You were designed to function in an ability to create situations where they don't exist. The problem with most people are you're creating the wrong situations. Your thinking, your thoughts, your speech. They're creating your reality. What are you thinking? What are you speaking? That's the question. And the thing is, this faith thing, when you look at it, and then I'm done, this whole faith thing, when you look at it, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of those things you are not able to see. So what we tend to judge ourselves on are the things that we can see. So if I can't see it, it ain't coming. If I can't see it, it's not going to happen for me. If I can't see it, it's a lost cause. No. See, that's when you start to speak it more emphatically. That's when you start to expect it with greater depth. That's when you make a demand that no matter what, I'm going to stand on it. I'm going to live on it. I'm going to speak it. I'm going to walk it. You got to make up in your mind that you're going to live at the level of your design. God designed you for nothing but extraordinary, phenomenal, exceptional, and greatness. And you have decided that you're going to camp out in the maze of mediocrity because everybody else is doing it. Come on. Sometimes you got to escape the mindset that was established in you by those who truly love you, parents, aunties, aunties, uncles, all of that stuff, to move into your true destiny, what God designed you for. As I shut it all down with you today, I'm gonna leave you with this. Something I got from the movie Deja Vu with Denzel, Paula Patton, and all that. The guy is talking to Denzel in the past, and Denzel's trying to stop what he already knows has happened. And he's trying to stop this guy. The guy looks at him and says, "Do you know the meaning of destiny?" Denzel said, "No, what?" He says, "The more you try to stop it, you only ensure that it happens." That's destiny. Look, I'm gonna get out of here. For those of you who want to be a part of this masterclass, and if I think I mentioned it, but if I didn't mention it, it is a personal placement masterclass, meaning everybody's not going to be required to show up at the same time and go through this virtual class. You're going to come in and you're going to give me an idea of when you're available, and we're going to create a space for you. Now, there may be other people, but a lot of the times it's going to be just you and me, and we're going to deal with this. It's 4 sessions that we're going to deal with this. We're going to talk about the design of God. You know, I look, and one of the biggest frustrations that I've had over the last 10 years are Christians who live defeated lives. Now, I work with anybody, but when I deal with Christians and you talk about things and you never examine it, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. I remember, I know I said I was over, but I'm in a space right now. I remember when I was going through what I was going through in 2012. Those who I've shared this with, you know the depth of that, and the pain and all of that. And I remember it being so dark. And I mean, all I could sit up and there were things I told God, if you just wake me up, I'll answer the bell. But there was a time it got so dark that I said, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my mind. That's how overwhelming it was, because I was seeing it from the wrong side of the wall. I said, I'm in fear that I'm going to lose my mind, that I'm going to wake up one day and I'm not going to even remember who I am. And I remember telling a lady that when they asked me how I'm doing, there's somebody I know very well. And I remember telling her, an older lady, and I say, it's so dark, I can't see. And I say, the darkness is consuming me. And again, this is not religion to me, this is real. And there's a difference. I'm not gonna get into that now, but there's a difference. But she said something to me that reminded me of the power of being the created of God. And it was real simple. She simply reminded me of what Solomon said. Solomon said that God dwells in the darkness, even the dense or gross darkness. God dwells. So when I was in my darkest moment, I didn't escape the divinity of God. I did not escape the power of God. I did not escape or exempt myself from access to the answers to my problems because it was dark. God dwells in the darkness. There is no place you can be on this planet and be absent from the presence of God. Now, you may not be in alignment with God, but you are not absent of his presence. Look, with that being said, like I said, I'm gonna get off of here, but hopefully, whether you work with me or not, you've got to take control of your thinking. You've got to take control of the beliefs that are governing your behavior, that is governing your expectation. I tell you a million times, God is only going to meet you at the level of your expectations. Ask Israel, as they have spoken in my hearing, so shall it be. What are you speaking in the hearing of God? That's it. I'm going to get out of here. You guys have an unbelievable day. As I always say, I'm going to live life on full, and I'm going to die on E. You do the same thing. I'm out. Peace.